Hello, this is Mrs. Smeckens, and in our previous lesson, we learned about the voices in a reader's head. We learned about two of them. We learned about the reading voice, the voice that reads the words. It's what the text says. It simply reads whatever words or details in the visuals we can see, and it just says them back to us. Okay, but that's not the voice that helps us understand a text. That's this voice. We learned about the thinking voice, and it tells us what all those words and details mean. This lesson is about a third voice. Readers actually have three different voices, and this third voice is not a good one. We don't want to be listening to the third voice. The third voice is called the distracting voice. Okay, so now let's take note of a few things. Let's take note of kind of the lightning bolt, kind of alarmist, jagged sign shape that we've got going here. All right, so this is not a good thing. All right, it's not a good thing. I also want you to take note of the color scheme. You see in the traffic light, right? Go through the reading the words, saying the words. What does the text say? Okay, then in a traffic light, yellow. No, yellow doesn't mean you blow through it faster. No. You're supposed to slow down. You're supposed to be cautious when you see a yellow light. And as a reader, same thing. This is the voice that helps us slowly figure out what does all of that mean. Okay, but in a traffic light, in that metaphor, the red means stop. That's what we have to understand about this voice. It's the reason I didn't want to introduce this voice with the other two. These are good voices. We want to listen to these. No, not a good voice. We don't want to be listening to it. Don't get me wrong. I have a distracting voice. You have a distracting voice. We all have a distracting voice. It's not that you don't or can avoid it. You just need to learn to mute it. Mute it. Shut it down. We got to stop listening to this voice. Okay, well, let's first talk a little bit about what distracting voice says to you. What kinds of things does it say? Well, the distracting voice is going to always talk about food when you're hungry. You're not even reading about food, but you're thinking, what's for lunch? I'm so hungry. Breakfast was so long ago. If you're having those thoughts when you're not reading about food and menu and time to eat, you're distracted. You know what else the distracting voice is really commonly talking about? Your physical environment, like where you're doing the reading. So my head's down, I'm reading the words on my screen, on the paper, whatever. I'm reading the words, but instead of thinking about the words, I'm thinking, so hot in here. Why it's so hot in here? I'm thinking, what's that smell? What's that noise? The sweater's so itchy. This chair's so uncomfortable. All right, that's all distracting voice. It's very aware of your physical surroundings. Any of those thoughts are not going to help you figure out what the text means. You see, the distracting voice talks. It thinks. The difference is what it talks about, what it thinks about. I'm thinking. That's what the distracting voice says, but I'm not thinking about what you're reading. I'm not thinking about the text. No, I'm thinking about your physical surroundings. I'm thinking about how empty your belly is. I'm thinking about how long are we doing this? How many paragraphs is this? And instead of reading, I'm counting paragraphs. All right, it's all a sign of the distracting voice. We all have one. We just have to overcome it. So the first thing to overcome it is to know what kinds of things does it say? And then to figure out how to mute it. How do you do that? And how do you regain that invisible conversation between reading voice and thinking voice? Okay, so I am going to pull up an article we read in our previous lesson. We read the first couple paragraphs of that YouTube article from Newsella. And as you look on your screen here, remember we read about people are watching videos twice as long, and you have to be 13 to watch YouTube, supposedly. Okay, so we're actually in this third paragraph. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to reading voice, and the goal would be that I have a thought about the reading. But instead, I'm going to show you how I can get distracted and what my distracting thought might be. Okay? All right, here we go. It really is the air they breathe, said Michael Robb. He directs research at Common Sense Media, the nonprofit organization that issued the report. Okay, that was classic. That is classic us. I'm just blowing through the words. I have no idea what they said because the whole time I was taking in those words and details. I was taking note of who was in the hallway, and I know her, and I'm hoping she looks over at me and I can say, okay, wait a minute. If you're having thoughts about nothing related to the reading, and if both voices are talking at the same time, you're in trouble. Classic distracting voice. Okay? Now, it's not that the distracting voice always and only talks when the reading voice is talking. Sometimes you can be reading, and then instead of pausing to have a thought about the text, you pause to think about something unrelated. You let this read a little bit, and then you think, poof, left field, you're gone. You saw something in the text, poof, and you went way out in outer space with it. Let me show you. Next sentence in that same third paragraph. Here we go. The group tracks young people's tech habits and offers helpful advice for parents. Tracks. Oh, I love track and field. I was supposed to be in track and field this spring. I used to do this event. Now I'm doing that event. And I just love spring track. Did you see it? I'm having thoughts, but they're not helping me make meaning of the text. But did you notice how it happened? It happened because I actually read a word with my reading voice that was in the passage. The passage says track. I didn't make it up. No, but here's what happened. Instead of thinking about what is the author's point related to that word, what does it all mean? We used that word and just used it as a springboard, whoop, and went somewhere else with it. Okay, and so if you find yourself kind of starting to lean back and look up and look around, that's your distracting voice talking to you. Remember, distracting voice is off topic, off task, not paying attention. That's why we call it the distracting voice. And so we want to recognize what are the kinds of things it does and it says. All right, so now we got to figure out how to overcome it. Well, first, it's your thinking voice that's going to say, whoa, 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 we are distracted right now. Because your distracting voice does not want to point it out. It's having a heyday. It's living life. All right? And the read voice is like, I'm doing my job. I'm reading every word. Get her done. Okay. It's going to be this voice that takes over. And it's the thinking voice that's going to point out to the distract, hey, zip it. Shut it down. Mute. You're bothering us. It's your thinking voice. Then the thinking voice has to have a conversation with the reading voice. The thinking voice has to say, hey, reading voice, listen, I don't know how many lines ago it was, but I wasn't thinking. You got to go back. Not all the way to the beginning, just go back. Go back one sentence. No, I don't remember that. Go back another sentence. No, I don't remember that either. Go back another sentence. Okay, go another one. Oh, okay, I remember that. All right, start there. Start there. So now we start there. Read, think, read, think, read, think. We've got to re-engage. That's what's got to happen. So it's normal to have a distracting voice, okay? The goal is to have limited distracting voice thoughts, okay? And some days you're just more easily distracted than others. But every day, you got to overcome it. You got to overcome it. So I don't want to just name the voice and tell you what it means. I want to remind you how you overcome it. Well, red, stop. As soon as you can, you want to stop the distracting voice, mute it. And then you have to reread. You can't, don't do this. Don't recognize you're distracted and then mute it and then just keep going from there. No. The thinking voice doesn't know what the last 3-4 sentences, 3-4 paragraphs, 3-4 pages were about. It's going to make the next 3 or 4 pages hard to figure out. No. You can't just pick up where you left off. You got to go back. I know. That's why we try hard not to be distracted. But this is what readers do. Okay, I want you to help me with this next example, demonstration. No, you're not going to demonstrate distracting thoughts. We don't need to practice distractions. I'm going to read the next sentence in the same article, I don't know, under the subhead, Ditching TV in Favor of Streaming Services. Okay, so I'm going to read it. I'm going to give my reading voice sign. I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to pause after a little bit, and I'm going to have a thought, and I'm going to share my thought with you. And here's your job. I want you to decide, is my thought helping figure out what the text means, or is my thought about something else? Okay, so the first thing we have to do is recognize distracting thoughts. All right, so I'll read, I'll have a thought, you name it, thinking voice or distracting voice. All right, here we go. The findings on video watching, however, indicate just how quickly young people are shifting from traditional television to streaming services. Oh, television, yeah, we watch TV, and well, actually we have we have three TVs, three televisions, but well, actually we only watch TV on two of them. The other one we use for games, so I suppose we don't really watch TV on it. Well, was that a thinking voice or a distracting voice? Yeah, totally a distraction. Totally. Now remember, I got here because I said the word television. It's not uncommon that actual word or detail in the text is what causes you to get distracted. But you have to recognize that didn't help you understand. Let me model what it would have been, what a thinking voice thought about the same sentence might have sounded like. The findings on video watching, however, indicate just how quickly young people are shifting from traditional television to streaming services. Oh, they're shifting from watching television. Well, everybody's watching the TV, but watching like television shows to watching streaming online, like Netflix. Okay, got it. See the difference? I'm still using the details, but I'm figuring out what they mean to me. That's thinking voice. All right, let's do another one. Next sentence. We'll just keep going. They are often watching videos on smartphones, tablets, and laptops. Okay, so smartphones, tablets. So it's not just television monitors. They're watching it on their own cell phones. They're watching it on like iPads or Chromebooks or whatever. Okay, so all kinds of devices count. Thinking voice or distracting voice? Which one was that? Yeah, that's on task. That was a thinking voice comment that's going to help me. A distracting voice comment would be, after reading, they are often watching videos on smartphones. Oh, I hope my mom would give me a new smartphone. I want the newest version, the one with 3 cameras and blah, blah, blah. Who cares? It's not helpful. No, you saw a word and boom, left field. You went. Okay, readers all have a distracting voice. We want to limit it, and when it does creep in, mute it. Stop, reread. Go back and re-engage these two voices. All right, if you were in Mrs. Smecken's class right now, what we would do is bust out our little reading voice, thinking voice sign. Yes, seriously, we're going to use it again. Yes, we're going to use it. No, we're not going to make a distracting voice sign. We don't want a distracting voice, so we don't make a sign, all right? But I want you to use whichever passage you didn't read after the last lesson. So if you didn't read that whole Newsella article about YouTube, then here it is. I want you to read it. But maybe you already read all that, but you didn't read the entire Baker's Dozen legend or myth or whatever that was. And so then you're going to use that one. So whichever one you haven't read, I want you to read, have thoughts. Read, have thoughts. I want you to do this. And our goal is to really be aware that our thoughts are helping us make meaning, figure out what does that mean? What's the point? What's the author trying to tell me? Okay, it's possible that in the process, some of your thoughts will be, I am hungry. My sweater is itchy. It is hot in here. All right, but you can't just pick up where you left off. You have to reread, figure out where it is you lost it, pick back up, and now read, think. Read, think. Our goal would be to read this whole passage and you didn't have any distracting thoughts. All right, if you're in Mrs. Mecken's class, that's what we would be doing next. But your teacher might have a better idea.